So hands up, who's here just to keep their feet nice and cool? Anybody? Yes, nice one, I don't blame you at all. I hope you gained something from this. And do we have any leaders or managers in the room? Welcome, and I'm hoping to give you, in fact, no, I'm not hoping, I will be giving you some valuable information. Now, when I told my daughters I was coming here today, they said, oh my God, this is going to be so boring. IT people are so boring, they do that. And I said, no, you have got no idea how good they are. So can you do me a favour and prove how unboring you are? And I would like to try a Mexican wave. Okay? And I'd like to start from the front and wave up to the back. Can the people at the back hear me? Okay. So, are you all ready? You've got drinks out your hand, ready? 3, 2, 1, wave! Oh, wonderful, well done. You need to give yourselves a big clap there. So, hopefully, you're all here for the right reason. So, I'm here to talk about how to retain your talent, which in the IT world is a big, big thing. We have big competitors working against each other, providing different benefit packages, different ways of looking at stuff. The main thing is to understand there are some actual facts around attention. Hi, sir. Obviously, I had my geek on today, so he's more than welcome, or she, sorry. Facts. If you look at all your staff, all your IT staff, you're talking about £30,000 for every departing employee. When you average it out, this is recruitment fees, this is training fees, this is those costs that don't get written down with your finance package, where you're taking other leaders and other technical people out of their day jobs to train new recruits. It's also the loss of knowledge, and that's something that you never see on any balance sheet, which is a real shame. But also, if you understand that employees feel more recognised, more empowered, more motivated, and are likely to stay if you lead them in the right way. So 63%, if they feel recognised, they want to stay, which is one of the things we're going to talk about today, recognition. And the last one here as well, if you have personal development, if you have some sort of training in place or career progression in place, 34% of your employees are going to stay longer. They're going to work harder. They're going to identify things that CSI packages won't. And we need to understand that engagement is huge within leadership and in businesses. So I'm going to introduce myself now. My name is Marc Rowley. I'm from HIT Leadership. I consider myself a productivity consultant, or in old terms, business consultant. I help companies make lots of profit whilst retaining their employees. And today I'm talking about retaining your employees. I've been working in medium and large corporate organisations for 30 years. I've seen the worst kind of leadership, and I've seen the best kind of leadership. I'm a qualified counsellor, so I help people with stress, anxiety and trauma. I study neuroscience as a hobby. I don't want a qualification, I've got enough. I'm also a university lecturer, so I teach a master's degree in leadership and management. Now you might be thinking that's the most animated lecturer I've ever seen in my life. I'm also a neurodivergent. I've got dyslexia and ADHD, which if you work in IT, there's a lot of people who are neurodivergent. And I like to champion those people as well. And I wear my geek badge very proudly. Nothing wrong with being a geek, it's a beautiful thing and we should empower it. So this is my retain system. And what I'll be doing, I'll be changing things, because normally I deliver this presentation and I go through each slide and I go through it and I talk about it. And I thought today, I'm not joking, I did this morning before I left, and I left home at 5:30. I was up early. And I thought, I'm going to provide some stories, because the geek that I am, over my last 30 years, I've collected stories. of how things could be better, how I can improve things in businesses, how I can help people not be stressed. If you understood what stress does to your body, you won't want to be stressed ever again. Minimum amount of stress is okay, you live in it, cortisone has a lot of problems. So what I thought I'd do, I would do a bit of a story time. And I'm going to go through each of my slides and give you a story that's true, that came from my digital diary or notes on my iPhone, which I've collected over the years through various versions of iPhones. And I just wanted to say, this system didn't come out of nowhere. This came out of real life experiences. This is where I've failed in business. This is where I failed in leadership. This is where I failed and I've seen other people fail. And what I've done is I've taken it all together and produced this system. So the first one of retain is R, recognition and rewards. And the story I'm going to tell you is about Jason, who worked on the service desk many moons ago. He was quiet and he was a solid tier 1 analyst. He was first in and last to complain. He kept systems stable during a software update that nearly took down our CRM, and he was the only person who noticed. And I was the only person who noticed the good work, but only because he fixed a problem before I even knew it existed. A very humble man. Now we had a reward scheme, but it celebrated volume, not value. And there was the problem. Quickest ticket turnaround times, most calls answered. Jason never stopped topping those charts, but he saved hours of future downtime every single week. So we redesigned the system when he put in his notice, because it broke my heart when he did that. So we had to look at it and we redesigned the system, and recognition became about impact, not output. We did peer shout-outs, customer feedback spotlights, a quarterly Quiet Hero Award, because there's a lot of humble people in IT. And we had awarded by the team as well. So this wasn't by management, this is what the team, your peers, thought, which is the best recognition you can get when your peers love and value what you do. And we also linked real rewards as well, like extra leave, training funds, lunch vouchers, and these are to behaviours that matched our culture. And that, to me, was more important than making sure we had no downtime. Jason didn't need a trophy, but he deserved it, but he also deserved the acknowledgement. And once we started doing that, more people like him stayed. And that was a beautiful thing that came out of recognition and rewards for our teams. The next one is engage through communication. The communication is key. If anybody understands business change management, anybody does business change management in here? Yeah, you understand communication is key. You don't communicate, people start making up their own minds of what's going on. And that is a problem. So we used to do no, it's elsewhere, it's okay, it's not me. We used to do monthly update emails. They were bland, one way, and nobody read them. Who reads emails that come out from the leadership team? Come on, let's be honest. Then we lost a senior analyst who said in the exit review, I stopped caring when I stopped being heard. So we had to flip the script here. The communications became two-way. We had weekly team huddles, and this was before anything to do with sprints or anything like that. Okay, this is prior to Agile and Azure, etc. And we brought in You Said We Did boards on Teams, anonymous Q&A. While I'm talking about anonymous Q&A, anonymous employee feedback is the best thing you can ever have in your business. The psychological safety that you give your employees by having anonymous feedback will do wonders. People will open up. They will say things. And when I say anonymous, I mean truly anonymous. So don't even say what department you're in, especially when there's only 2 people in there and one of them's the favourite of the manager. Okay, so you have to be truly anonymous. So we did no more long emails, that was the key, and we used voice notes and short videos. Real tone, real people. And that actually got more feedback. And we also launched a new ticketing system. But we didn't just announce it, we got everybody involved, every single user, from first, second, third line support to the programmers to the end users. So we got feedback, we communicated, we got everybody involved. And that went down an absolute treat. So when people feel part of the conversation, they stop feeling like a number. I worked for a large corporate organisation, I'm not going to mention, but it was run by accountants, and basically we were all numbers, and they wondered why their turnover rate was in the 60%. You see, when people feel part of it, that's where commitment starts as well, and people start changing their mindset. They want to be part of something when they're engaged through communication. The next one is training and development. Now, I do appreciate with budgets being stopped and this and that going on, I do understand that sometimes you can't provide paid for training, but sometimes it doesn't have to be paid for. So this subject here is, we kept talking about upskilling. I don't know if you hear that buzzword a lot, but no one was moving, and people were stuck with the same tasks year after year. And it came to a head when Anna, one of our most curious techs, handed in a notice, and she said, I've hit the ceiling, no one's shown me what's next. And people sometimes, they don't talk about their own career, they just get on with it. Neurodiverse people will get on, because if you're not in a psychologically safe place, you feel fear of being honest, you feel fear of speaking out, you don't want to lose your job, you're happy. Sometimes your tribe is where you work. But she wasn't wrong though. We were reactive with training, waiting for mistakes, then offering solutions. And very reactive, not proactive at all. But we changed that. We launched personal development plans, scheduled quarterly growth check-ins. Everybody had a learning wallet for courses, exams, even conference tickets. We mapped out our career paths, not just to promotion, but to specialism. You've also got to look at succession plans as well. If someone's coming up, I mean, if you want to progress, you want someone to fill your place. So succession planning is absolutely key. So we had people piggybacking in and actually getting trained by the people who were actually going to get promoted, and that was fantastic. We mapped out those career paths, but it's like cybersecurity, automation, DevOps. We funded certifications before people ask. And if it depends on the platform you've got, I'm going to mention no names, you're incentivized to do the training because it gives you more credits. Okay, I think there's a few nodding heads up, so I'm sure you understand what I'm talking about. But when we did this, Anna stayed, and 6 months later she was leading an internal masterclass on zero trust architecture. That is beautiful. You would have seen how proud she was, how engaged she was. It's a beautiful thing as a leader to see. The next one is the A, accountability and fairness. Now this part was hard. The large corporate company I worked for had a culture of just get it done. And that meant some staff were drowning while others coasted. Favoritism crept in. When a junior analyst raised it, she said, the standards don't apply to everyone. And that really gets you here when that happens. And she was right, and we'd let it slide. So we set clear expectations, not vague values. Smart goals, anybody? But real behavioural standards. Sometimes you can recruit people for the behaviour, and if they've got part of the skills, that's brilliant, because you can train people on skills, but behaviours come from personality type. Behaviours come from how that person's been brought up, what schooling they've had. what negativity they've had in their life. And that really, really meant a lot to us. So we were looked at behaviours. And in fact, I can tell you another story, typical ADHD side quest here. I went to a company and they didn't have any contracts in place. They didn't have any goals set for their people. And they had a few people they wanted to get rid of because of their negativity and how they were bringing down the team. So, but they did have behaviours. So we set those behaviours as the standard, and then you start managing those people to those behaviours. And you can put KPIs behind those as well. You can get 360 reviews to get people to look at that. Vital. But we also applied fairness, no public blame. We placed the who messed up culture with what broke in the system. What did we learn from this? When you remove blame and you start looking at how you can grow and what you've learned from that situation, it makes a massive difference. People start to listen. People want to stay. They want to be involved. Fairness doesn't mean everyone gets the same. It means everyone gets what they need and is held to the same bar. Favoritism within businesses ruins productivity. That's a fact, and I've seen that myself. The I in retain, invest in well-being. Now, I said earlier on, I'm a counsellor, so you don't just become a counsellor for no reason. So in 2006, I broke my brain. I was bedridden for 3 months, just as we had our second child, which was really, really good of me as the father to be bedridden. Luckily, we've got a good support network around us. But I was in a very, very dark place. In fact, it was my eldest child, who was 2 at the time, that actually turned things around for me by blowing a raspberry on my belly. Sometimes the innocence of children can really make you think. But the warning signs were subtle. More sick days, more just not feeling right, and more turned off cameras on calls. Then came the burnout crash. One tech broke down mid-call after 3 weeks of back-to-back incidents. Single points of failure within businesses, they break people. They shoulder all that responsibility on them, and it breaks your heart to see the damage that's doing to them, their brain, their body, their relationships. Because when you're stressed, you take it home with you. You're more argumentative. You don't want to talk. Everything is bad. And that's the moment I realized well-being wasn't about free fruit and yoga apps. It's about recovery time, mental safety, and support that worked. We started with the basics. Mandatory lunch breaks. We've got to insist on that, especially with neurodivergent people. They will miss out on food. Okay, so you have to make sure they get a break from the screen. They get up, they move around, they get the blood moving around. No more messages after hours. That was banned. We added access to external counselling, wellbeing counsellors as well, and mental health reset days. No questions asked. When you have the kind of trust that you can build with your employees, you don't ask questions when they say, I need time off. You allow it if you want to retain them. Now, people started opening up, and no one had to hide their struggle behind just tired anymore. I think as leaders as well, it's our responsibility to be open and honest. I would go into any organisation and tell them how dark times it was, because I pushed myself too far and didn't recognise what burnout was, what stress was. You can't expect resilience if you don't invest in it. So you really have to invest in mental health champions, or just having something to help. The N, which is the last letter in retain, this is nurturing relationships. And this one, I nearly missed. I was so focused on progress, output, and structure, I forgot teams built on trust, not tools. And one day I watched 2 techs, Tom and Nadia, solve a client's issue in under 15 minutes. Luckily, the SLA was for 30 minutes, so we get in there. But not just because they were told to collaborate, but because they knew each other and they trusted each other. So we stopped pretending relationships were a luxury, and we built them in. Weekly virtual coffee roulette, peer mentoring across all the shifts as well. You will have shift work. You work 24/7, 365, follow the sun kind of operations. You have shifts, and sometimes you need that handover period. Not to hand over what's gone wrong or not, but to see how they are, what they need to be aware of, and just have a human conversation, not just a technical conversation. And we did lunch and learn sessions, and no one talked about work, and that's the key. Yes, it's work. Yes, you need to bring the money in, but you're human beings. You work together, and that really, really helps. And we even had bad jokes. I'm a dad, and I do plenty of bad jokes. I will not ruin the mood by telling one now. But the impact, we had fewer escalations, faster resolutions, and a stronger I've got your back culture. There was no them and us, no backstabbing either, which sometimes you will get in a negative environment. And what happens as well, in our brains, there's something called the RAS system, rectal activation system, in the frontal lobe. What you put into your brain will change your mood. I haven't watched the news for over 20 years. I value what goes in my head, and this is why I'm a very happy man. Okay? This is very important to understand this from a neuroscience point of view. What you put in will change your mood. So if you've got a negative culture, it breeds. What's that old saying? One bag apples spoils a barrel. And it will happen. This is why recruiting on behaviours is key. So when people care about each other, they care more about the work too. And if you can show as a leader that you actually do care, and leaders are not just people who tell people what to do, they're more than that, and I'll go on to that in a second. But that's how I came up with the Retain system. It's not a strategy document either. It was small moments, tough lessons, really tough, honest feedback, and a bit of humility as well. It's not a magic formula, but it's a reminder that retention isn't sold by perks or pressure. People stay when they feel recognised, heard, challenged, treated fairly, cared for, and connected. Still not me, I'm not buzzing. Now that's what Retain gives us, and that's why our best people don't just show up, they stay, and that's key. You might be thinking, well, when do I need to put this system in place? When do I need to start thinking about this? Well, what's the old Chinese proverb? When was the best time to plant a tree? 50 years ago. That's when it was the best time. The next best time is now. Okay, so start looking at those changes you can make within your business. Start looking at promoting for behaviours, not just someone's good at what they do. Just because you're good at doing technical queries doesn't mean you're good at managing people. That's key. There's something called the Peter principle. People are promoted into positions of failure. And I've seen this so many times. And it does concern me going into businesses who just promote because of that reason. And that doesn't take away the experience and knowledge and the expertise of that individual, but you can tier that level, that role. And that's the thing. You tier that role, level 1, level 2, level 3, within the analyst role or whatever role it is. That's progression. You don't have to necessarily lead a team or do team management, and that's key. What I want to do today, before we go to Q&A, is leave you with this saying. The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others, because when you are a leader, you are your team's marketing manager. You're going around the company saying how good your team are. You are marketing them. You're motivating them because you're their cheerleader. You're their counsellor. So when they want to talk about a tough day, you talk. You let them talk and you listen. Active listening within leadership is one of the best skills you can have. I think people call them soft skills. It's not a soft skill, it's a human skill. And active listening is listening to understand, not respond. And I know we've all had that experience where we've been talking and someone's interrupted us before we finish because they've already got in their mind how they're going to respond to us. That's not active listening. There should be a pause after you've finished, and then you can respond. So you're also facilitators for your team, you're motivators. You can motivate your teams, you can engage your teams. They will do anything for you within reason and legality. Okay, it's so key. And just remember, they're not just your employees, they are helping you look good. And this is the thing, we don't get taught this, and it breaks my heart to say that. We don't get taught that for us to look good, our teams have got to look good. So what do? You make sure your teams have everything they need to do their job. You're there for them, you're engaging them, and you're making them feel valued, and that's key. So to say thank you for doing the Mexican wave, if you see the QR code, I actually write a lot of articles, obviously being an academic geek that I am. And that's to the 6 P's of productivity, and in there it talks about people and engagement. That's a free download for you. And there ends my talk for today. Thank you very much for your patience, and now I'd like to open it up to questions. And I can see the man at the back running to get the microphone. Does anybody have any questions? No? Hello.
Just wondering a bit about the hiring, behaviours, attitudes, and we try to do that where I work. And I'm just wondering if you have any tips for recognising that in interviews and not getting tripped up later on.
That's a great question. Yes. I study behavioural science as well. There's a great person called Chase Hughes. He's a behavioural expert, and he talks about one question that you can ask to find out if you're getting someone whose ego is up here, arrogance, whatever. The one question you can ask is, how did you get on with your last role? Why did you leave your last role? And if that person starts talking about, oh, well, the culture is awful, the people are awful, everybody's awful, that's a red flag. If they start talking about what they've learned and how they grew, that's the biggest tick in the box. But if you're a bit unsure when they start saying that, just ask the question again, so what did you learn from that? And if they continue to say, I learned not to trust people, you know you've got a red flag. Did that answer your question? Thank you for the question. Anybody else who has a question? Or do you want to do another Mexican wave? I'm joking. Any other questions though? I'm here afterwards if you'd like to chat, but thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you.